and welcome back to Vintage Disney here on Brian's Things That Are Cool. Walt Disney and Oz. It seems like a match made in heaven. In 1937, despite expressing interest in the film rights to the beloved L. Frank Baum series, Walt ultimately passed on the deal. Walt most likely had most of his attention set on the completion of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, so MGM obtained the film rights, which resulted in an American motion picture classic. With a $418 million take and the birth of the animated feature film industry, Snow White was no slouch. Walt just had a lot on his plate at the time. That didn't stop Snow White voice actress Adriana Caselotti from an uncredited single line in the Tin Man song, If I Only Had a Heart.
Above a voice sings low.
Wherefore art thou, Romeo?
In 1954, with the new medium of television all the rage, Walt Disney premiered Walt Disney Presents Disneyland. The time seemed right for Walt to attempt another trip down the yellow brick road. This time around, Walt purchased the rights to 11 of the 14 Oz books with plans to produce adaptations for his TV show. Initially, Walt's plan was a two-part adaptation of The Patchwork Girl of Oz. But by 1957, the ideas grew so big that the studio decided to make a feature film, which was to have been called The Rainbow Road to Oz. The cast would have been made up of Mouseketeers, with Darlene Gillespie as Dorothy, Bobby Burgess as the Scarecrow, Jimmy Dodd as the Cowardly Lion, Doreen Tracy as the Patchwork Girl, Annette Funicello as Princess Ozma, and bizarrely Tommy Kirk as the villainous son of the Wicked Witch of the West. For the September 11th, 1957 Disneyland's 4th anniversary show, Walt produced a preview for his proposed feature.
Each week as you enter this timeless land, one of these many worlds will open to you.
The segment opens with the Mouseketeers attempting to convince Uncle Walt to cast them in his upcoming, and of course ultimately not produced, Oz picture. After showing him some concept art, we cut to our first production number. And full disclosure, even in the book, the Patchwork Girl of Oz is just creepy. And Doreen doesn't really help matters here. You think that's bad? You obviously haven't seen the 1914 silent film The Patchwork Girl of Oz. Stuff of nightmares. Then we cut to our second number, the Oz Can Hop, a swing song which actually is pretty catchy. Here we see Jimmy Dodds as the Cowardly Lion and Annette as Ozma. By the end, Walt agrees. The Mouseketeers would be perfect for his new film. I wonder what could have been. I tend to picture something like Disney's Babes in Toyland from 1961, which also had Annette in it, as well as the original Scarecrow, Ray Bolger. Only a couple of months after this preview aired, the entire project was shelved. It may have been for budget reasons, or it could have been the fear that the Mouseketeers couldn't carry a film. Though, the previous year, a handful of the Mouseketeers did just that in Fess Parker's Westward Ho! The Wagons. I wonder if it may have been the tough act to follow that was the 1939 MGM film. However, that certainly didn't stop the Disney Company's future trips to the marvelous land of Oz. The Disney Company eventually got around to adapting the Oz books in 1985 with Return to Oz with Fairuza Balk. A mix of the second and third Oz books, The Marvelous Land of Oz from 1904 and Ozma of Oz from 1907, with a couple of things taken from TikTok of Oz from 1914, Return to Oz pushed the boundaries of just how dark you could go with a kids' movie. I was never scared of it, but with the electroshock therapy, headless witches, creepy rock monsters, the deadly desert, and the Wheelers, I can completely understand why some kids found it unsettling. For me, well, as a kid I always watched this on the VHS my dad recorded off TV that also had Pee Wee Herman's 1981 HBO special Live at the Roxy on it. So yeah, I guess you can say I grew up on demented stuff. Despite being billed as a sequel to the 1939 Wizard of Oz, the only elements to make a comeback was certain characters having Oz counterparts and Dorothy's ruby slippers. The memorable footwear is implanted deep within people's minds as being immediately recognizable as Oz, despite them being silver in the book. Disney had to have them and paid MGM a fee to put them in the film. As film adaptations go, Return to Oz is closer to L. Frank Baum's Oz Film Manufacturing Company movies of the early 20th century than it is the 1939 picture. Return to Oz had a troubled production, with the director being fired then rehired, star Fairuza Balk fainting from the extreme heat, and scenes having to be reshot, and the film was not well received in its initial release. But time would be kind to Return to Oz, and with even Ray Bolger praising Fairuza Balk, the film would become a childhood classic. If you want a dark visual treat closer to Baum's original ideas, check out Disney's Return to Oz. Just watch out for the Wheelers.
Behave yourself now.
I will behave. I'll behave.
While Walt missed out on Oz back in the 30s, eventually the Disney company would allow people to journey into the colorful world of the Judy Garland musical. Quite literally. Walt Disney World's MGM Studios. My favorite place to be as a child. You could live the movies. Probably to no greater effect than the Great Movie Ride. Now, I spoke in greater detail about the Great Movie Ride in my long-lost Disney Attractions episode, but I couldn't do a Disney and Oz video without mentioning the gorgeous Oz portion of the attraction. After riding through films like Footlight Parade, Public Enemy, and Aliens, your vehicle enters Munchkinland, where Dorothy's house has just landed on the Wicked Witch of the East. The Munchkins happily greet you just as the Wicked Witch of the West appears and asks who's responsible for killing her sister.
Who killed my sister? Who killed the Witch of the East? Was it you?
Your tour guide, who's already had to defeat a gangster or cowboy, depending on which version you ride, reenacts the famous lines from the film, and it plays out just as you remember. The Munchkins then see that the coast is clear, and of course, then we ride past Dorothy and friends' arrival at the Emerald City, just as her journey through Hollywood's past comes to an end. While obviously not a Disney film, Disney was able to get every last detail perfect for these two scenes, and much like the rest of the ride, allows you to enjoy the movie on a whole new level. I loved riding it whenever I could, wish I could ride it again, and still really miss the Great Movie Ride. As we near the end of this episode, it's time to look all the way back to 2015 and see what it would be like if the Disney company teamed up with the guy that brought us Evil Dead. This is Oz the Great and Powerful. Under the direction of Sam Raimi, Oz the Great and Powerful isn't taken directly from any of the Baum books, but loosely ties in what elements there are to tell the story of how the wizard came to Oz. The movie opens much like the 1939 film, shot in black and white as we meet Oz, a struggling huckster magician who soon finds himself swept away by a tornado to a magical Technicolor world that shares his name. After meeting a number of characters, Franco soon has all of Oz buzzing about this powerful wizard, despite the fact that he's really only a step up from a snake oil salesman. Soon, Franco finds himself in big trouble as an evil witch, played by Rachel Weisz, uses her sister Mila Kunis's interest in Franco to further her own evil plans. I'm not big on CGI, but Oz looks amazing here. Raimi has always been a very visually driven director, and it's really on full display here. In fact, I would say with minimal retooling, it would work really well as a prequel to the Judy Garland film, though it certainly has less songs. I've always really liked James Franco as an actor, especially since he played one of my favorite stars of all time, James Dean. And he's okay here. I just don't think he has the fast-talking, lovable hustler down in the same way that, say, Johnny Depp had in Ed Wood. But for what we get, he is good and has a few moments where he really shines. Mila Kunis is not bad as Franco's love interest, but man, is her makeup as the Wicked Witch bad. It just doesn't give her the same intimidating screen presence as Margaret Hamilton. And maybe giving the Wicked Witch cleavage was a bad idea. In all, a good film with some odd choices that could have used a touch of Glinda's wand. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed my look at Disney and Oz. If you want to be kept up to date as to when I release a new video, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. And if you really want to be kept up to date, go ahead, hit that bell as well. I'm Brian, and I'll see you next time.